wherever you want as well. Good afternoon, everybody. We are joined by one of my favourite people this afternoon, Laurie. I will let her introduce herself because she will do it a lot better than me. And we're going to be talking all things coaching. I did a coaching conversation with somebody last week with Ruth Kudsey, actually, around coach training. So this is a really nice follow on. Hi, Laurie. How are you?
Hi, Steph. I'm good, thanks too. You are also one of my favourite people.
Thank you very much. So a bit of background. So look, the reason why we love each other so much is because Laurie used to come and do yoga at my retreats. And if you've been on one of my retreats, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. If you come to my retreats, then it's like bajung connection. Like we just small group of women sharing, getting on with it, making changes. It's quite an experience. So it was wonderful to do that with Laurie and experience her amazing yoga and also bits of her coaching, but we'll talk about that a bit more. So tell us a bit about yourself, Laurie. What do you do?
So yeah, just to build on what Steph was saying, I think I did 4 retreats with you in the end, Steph, and they were the most fun ever. And the women that come or used to come on Steph's retreats when she was running them are amazing. So if any of you are watching, hello. I miss you. I miss the retreat. I just want to touch people.
Yes.
Not in a creepy way, like in a physical hug way. No, so my name's Laurie. I am in my late 20s. I am working at the moment in Cambodia, living here remotely, and working as a yoga teacher, a writer, and a life coach. Bit of my sort of personal journey and how me and Steph crossed paths was because I got sober back in 2016 and I didn't shut up about it, which means that if you Google my name, you will see me all over the internet talking about sobriety, which it was for me the foundation of my kind of journey. It wasn't the beginning of my self-help, self-development journey, but it was the thing that started moving me rather than 1 step forward, 2 steps back. With sobriety, I started moving 1 step forward and then another step forward. So it was a bit of a game changer for me. That's, I guess, who I am in 1 minute.
Okay, brilliant. It is a game changer, isn't it? Ditching the booze is definitely a game changer. I was just having that conversation with one of the ladies in one of my groups. We've got a 5-day challenge running this week, and so lots of women right at the beginning and really struggling with lots of things. And she was sharing with me, she was like, if they only understood that if they stop drinking, then everything else will be so much easier. I'm like, yeah. That's where it starts.
And so as well sometimes, right? Like your life is really hard, so you don't want to give up drinking because drinking is what makes you think your life is easier. But if you give up drinking, your life will be easier. And you have, like I always say, like sobriety was for me like not the first step. Like I think self-awareness that I even needed to quit was the first step, but then sobriety was like the second step on this ladder of getting to where I wanted to be internally and externally. Because when I took the booze away, I stopped.
It's all right. You can swear. It's fine.
It's 1:45 on a Tuesday. But when I took the alcohol away, I took away most of what I was using to fuck my life up. And so kind of naturally things had to get better.
Yeah. Okay. So awareness, then you stop drinking. And what? Because it wasn't just like magic, was it? It's been a bit of a journey.
No. Okay. So I did a graphic on this the other day, but I can't remember exactly what I said. But awareness, and then sobriety, and then therapy, I think. But if I hadn't had access to therapy, I would still have done like healing journey and inquiry work and gone through the books. Like there's a great book on healing your inner child, which is really good. And I'm not working with a therapist at the moment, so I've kind of gone back to that sort of self-led therapy approach. And then getting out of debt was a big one for me. I owed not objectively loads and loads of money, but to what felt like, to me at 25, felt like world-ending amounts of money. So not drinking helped me get out of that and also helped me earn more money. I think we talk a lot about frugality as a way to pay off our debts, and you shouldn't drink a coffee and you shouldn't buy avocado if you're a millennial. But actually what is really helpful about paying off money, if you can, is earning more money. If you have that option. I know things are difficult with COVID, but in normal circumstances, earning more money makes life so much fucking easier to pay off debt than just trying to cut out everything you can. Which is my experience anyway. I started to teach yoga as well as work, so that gave me an extra income that I could then put against my debt, although I worked 60-70 hours a week, which I again wouldn't recommend. And then coaching. So through my sobriety experience, I met loads of amazing coaches like you, and a couple of other coaches online. Some are sober, some aren't. And I started working with them, both in a couple of coaches. I've had 2 or 3 coaches I've worked with one-on-one. And then I've also done a couple of group programs. And I've done some self-led programs, but they don't work so well for me because what I have in zhuzh and creativity and like an absolute love of freedom kind of lack in strict discipline, and I do better when someone holds me accountable. The group programs work well for me, but self-led courses I tend to end up doing half. So I've worked with a few coaches, and it's really helped me kind of move forward. And that was like not the final layer of my journey, like I'm far from done with all of this, but it was an extra layer that really helped me kind of see what I was capable of. Sounds quite strong, because I think lots of people are capable of lots of things, but see where I wanted to go.
Yeah. And it's because I know quite a lot about your journey. what I love as well about you and the coaching is that, as we know, for some of us, we stop drinking and then we do what we need to do. But then there's this really lovely bit where you get to look at, well, who am I and how do I want to live my life? And I definitely feel like that's something that you've done, is you've worked really hard at how do I want to live and how do I want my life to be? And you've actually done it and you've made those changes, haven't you?
Yeah, twice over. I think that's been a big learning for me as well. Just because you think you want your life to be one way doesn't mean you can't change your mind. So just to give some background on my journey, because Steph knows all about it already. But when I stopped drinking, I was living in London and had a pretty full-on marketing job. I was doing the London, well, I mean, people live in London in all different ways, but I was doing my version of Sex and the City in London.
I would like to have seen that.
Oh, God, no, you wouldn't.
With the shoes, were you doing it with the shoes as well?
Nice shoes, yeah. And wearing nice dresses and wearing nice shoes and going to restaurants that were opening if I could get in, and posh clubs where you meet the Made in Chelsea lot and the interesting, and working in bars until I got a proper job, and then had a proper job and was spending more than I was earning and just trying to live like I thought it would look good. And when I stopped drinking, I was still living in London. I lived in London for I think I stopped drinking in December and I left London in August. So I did 9 months in London after I quit, but it was enough for me to realize that, okay, I don't want to be in London anymore. And I was doing a lot of work and I was trying to figure out where I wanted to be. And I decided I wanted to be back in the countryside and nearer my family. Had this idea that I wanted to get a dog and I wanted to do the countryside thing and I wanted to live a quiet life. And so I went back and I did it and bought a house and I got a dog. And then kind of summer 2019, was starting to do a bit more work, and I was like, I don't think this is actually what I want. So then I went on holiday to Cambodia, and even though I hadn't figured out what I wanted at that point, the holiday to Cambodia kind of said to me, oh no, hello, we're here, why don't you live here? And so I decided to move to Cambodia and live and work remotely over here. And I made that change as well. So I thought I was going to be happily settled in Norfolk forever and ever, as Steph knows, because I had gone on about it so much. And actually, I ended up in Cambodia, which is where I'm talking to you from now. It was a decision that I think me and you had a chat about it as well, actually, because there was a retreat just before I came over. I use this quite a lot, and it's kind of probably a little leg up from the Stoic philosophy, which is to like imagine literally the worst case scenario happening to you. But I don't quite like to do that because I have a bit of a catastrophizing mindset as well. But I use this, which is what's the worst that can happen? And if the worst that can happen is I'm back in the situation I'm in now with maybe a different job, then I can deal with that scenario. So that's often what I do. And that was what I did with Cambodia. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? I end up back in Norfolk doing a different job that pays less money, but don't really like my job any. At that point, I had a different job. I was working in marketing. I wasn't doing the writing, teaching yoga and coaching full time. I was like, the worst that can happen is I come back and I have a different job, or I go on universal credit while I look for a job. Neither of those are end of the world options for me. I can cope with that. And so here I am in Cambodia.
Amazing. And how is it in Cambodia?
Warm. No, I mean, obviously it's been a weird year and a bit. I actually moved to Cambodia in December 2019, which is the year, which is the month they found COVID-19. But it's been interesting. And would I have stayed out here without coming back to the UK so long if COVID wasn't in place? Probably not. Like, I would love to come home and visit my family. But COVID is COVID, and we are all adapting and living in the new normal. Cambodia is a good place to be for that because we don't really have many restrictions. Very difficult to get in and out of the country. But once you're in, things are pretty free. And you've done your 2-week hotel quarantine. So yeah, I've been lucky. The cost of living is low here, which means that I can focus on my coaching and my writing and teaching yoga and combining all of that with my coaching clients as well. And also has meant that I can kind of offer, you know, in my mind, affordable prices because my life is, you know, I'm not having to pay the very expensive living costs I used to have. So yeah, it's worked out well for me. And I think if anybody ever has the option to do it, I would say do it. Like, the worst that can happen is you go home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's brilliant. So what made you, I was still trying to think of the right words and say, what made you move into coaching? Because in my eyes, having watched you at my retreats, you've always been a natural coach. Sort of watching how, I mean, you came to those retreats and you taught yoga and you fully participated, which was amazing. And actually people who come to my retreats and teach or do a workshop, I don't expect that of them at all, but you did. You came in, like, jumped in, both feet first. I'm here, let's do this. Fully immersed yourself in it. But not only that, you shared, and I could see your natural coaching abilities really early on. So I wonder if you knew that, but also what made you decide to train, to start coaching?
Yeah, so I wrote down in a journal, I have journals from 2015 of, honestly, like, mounds of these journals, because I just write. It's really, I don't know what, self-soothing for me to write how I feel. And the first time I sort of wrote about coaching or wanting to be a coach was really early in January 2017. It was only like a month sober. But at that point, I felt like I still had shit to get together, and I felt like I still needed to put all of my energy into myself, or not myself, but my family, and just getting my own shit together. I'm not saying you can't coach from a place of healing. You definitely can, and there's some amazing coaches that do it. But I knew for myself, to be able to give what other people need and hold the space that I wanted to hold as a coach. I had more work to do. And so it's been this like natural progression of, like you say, helping on your retreat and doing some coaching work in that. And then like falling into different roles. Like even when you teach yoga, you're not coaching, but you're holding space for people. And in a private class as well, you hold even more space. And then just over time, like I've had like an Instagram presence and a blog presence for ages, and you get lots of like people messaging you and end up kind of coaching them for free by accident in the DMs, which if you have better boundaries, you don't do. I just realizing that I really enjoyed that, and I get a lot from seeing other people do well. And I have always been that person or less so now because I'm overseas, but in my friendship group, I was always that person that gave really good advice, like that person that is the non-judgmental one who people will come to because they know that whatever they say, I'm not going to shame them or have an opinion that's not, unless it's really harmful. And like if my friend came to me with something like domestic violence related, for example, like I'm going to have maybe something slightly stronger to say. But in terms of like coming to me with anything, I would be that person that people came to because they knew that I was going to kind of accept it for what it is and kind of put the perspective back on them, because I really believe like it's not my place to judge anybody. Like I don't care how you make your money, I don't care what you do, as long as you're kind of owning your shit. Like it's not my place to judge what you're doing for money or who you're sleeping with or any of that. So I was always that person in my friendship group. And then through the coaching that I've had, both like your group coaching at your retreats, from working with coaches one-on-one, and how helpful I found it, I was always like, I can do this. Like, and I think I'd really help women, and predominantly work with women, to figure out their own shit and to realize how important they are, and how by taking personal responsibility, there's so much more to their lives if they are feeling like they're lacking, whether they're looking for sort of internal fulfillment. A lot of it's about doing the inner work. One of the things I've realized from moving out of London into the countryside and sorting all that stuff out, buying a house, and then moving 10,000 miles away, is that if you don't do the inner work, it doesn't matter where you are. And I know that now, like when I first moved over here, I found it really difficult because I still had so much I hadn't addressed, and I thought moving overseas was going to fix it. It doesn't fix it. It might be a nice distraction, but whether that's doing inner work or whether they've got outer dreams, they want to move overseas or commit to not drinking long term or write a book, I just thought that I would be a good person to hold space for them and help them pursue that.
Yeah, definitely. It's very much an inside job. I love that. And I love working with people on that type of stuff as well. So would you say that one of your superpowers is supporting people to make changes? What would you say some of your superpowers are in terms of coaching?
Yeah, I think supporting people to make inner changes is a real superpower of mine. I think supporting people to accept themselves and to build self-confidence and self-esteem, something that I'm really good at. I think another thing I'm good at, and I work quite a lot with my clients, is self-approval, and kind of knowing that whatever you want, whoever you are, like building that sense of approving of yourself can give you so much of what you want you don't even know. So actually like coming to things from a place not of asking for someone else's permission, but approving of where you're at and what you want, and then coming to it from like telling people what you're doing, rather than always crowdsourcing for opinions. And obviously there's a time and a place for what other people think. But I think as women, we're always taught to constantly ask for this approval. And actually you can approve yourself. And that's something like I like to focus on as well as kind of helping people to reframe and see things differently. I think that's a big thing as a coach, but also in my coaching sessions, I always say this to clients, like, it's a judgment-free zone. Like, no matter how I did it, or I might not have done what you want to do, but I don't have any judgment or preconceived opinions on how you should do it. If you ask for my advice, I might give you what I know to be true, but I'm not here. Before I come into the call, I don't come into it with any kind of expectations. I'm not trying to push an idea onto you. And because I have that sort of non-dogmatic approach, I think that's quite a superpower.
I think it's, yeah, definitely. I would agree. Thanks, Laurie. That's amazing. It's so lovely to get to know a bit more about you and your work, and tell people how they can work with you and how much it costs, because I really need you to hear this, ladies. So and is it just ladies? Do you work with gentlemen as well?
I will work with gentlemen if they want to work with me and we think we're a good fit, but typically I've been working with women and people who identify as women.
Yeah, brilliant. Good point. Thank you. So if anybody's listening to this and you are loving what Laurie is saying and you would love to work with her, I highly recommend you do, because Laurie, you know, she's starting out. I mean, I don't think she's starting out in her coaching delivery. She's definitely been doing that for a long time, but she's starting out in terms of offering professional services and packages. So it's very affordable at the moment, and it may not be like this for you know, for a long time. So I would definitely jump in there. So can you just share how people can get in contact with you and how much it costs?
Of course. So best way to contact me is to either come through the website or message me on Instagram, or you can comment here and I'll pick it up from my personal Facebook. Yeah. So my website is girlandtonic.co.uk, like gin and tonic, but girl and tonic. And on there's a work with me page where you can come in and you can book a 20-minute free, no obligation chat, chemistry call, they call it in coaching, but really it's just a chat, see how we get on, see if I think I can help you and you think I'm a good person to help you too. Although hopefully you've got some vibe from me here. But that's just our safe, confidential space to sort of hash it out and see about moving forward. So at the moment, I'm offering 2 packages, like Steph said. First one is over 6 weeks, where we'll do a coaching call once a week for 4 weeks. Then we have a week break for you to assimilate stuff, do any of the work that you kind of have needed to do, and do a final session. So that's 5-hour-long sessions in total, and that's $350. Works out at £70 per session. With that, you'll get sort of email follow-up from me, and you can email me as you need. And then my signature 3-month program is 10 sessions, and that works out at $599, so just under £60 a session. Again, with that, we'll do 6 weeks of back once a week calls, and then we'll move to every other week. Just to, again, I'm really aware that people have these busy lives and coaching can be quite intense, especially if you have a family or other commitments. So 6 weeks, I think, of talking every week, working through your stuff, and then moving to every other week to support you in kind of making changes moving forward. Again, I normally run that over with the final sessions going every other week, but I have a couple of clients who have wanted to do 10 weeks back to back, and that's fine. I've been doing that. So if you're interested, I guess when Steph shares this, I can share my website, and the best thing to do is just book in a chemistry call that way. If you don't want to go through Calendly, just message me and I will book it in for you. I'm in Cambodia, so I'm +7 GMT. What that means is I tend to work most on what is, if you're in the UK, your weekend mornings. I find that works really well because it gives you time to sort of take a break and work through it without having to rush through your workday. or in the mornings during the week before work starts.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I will share this video everywhere, but Laurie is very good at picking up any questions. So yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to comment and I'm sure she will pop in. Thank you so much for your time today, Laurie. I'm sure we will see you soon and continue to enjoy your life in Cambodia.
Thanks, Steph. Nice to see you.
And you. Bye.
Bye.